Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a different kind of tier list. I'm joined by the beautiful Krashy. Say what's up, Krashy.
Hello, hello.
So lovely, glad having you here. So today we're going to be doing a competitive tier list on this side, and then I'm going to be discussing where I think these Pokemon fit in solo queue with Krashy on the other side there. So we're going to have both takes, competitive and solo queue takes. So we'll dive right into it. First off, we've got Absol. Now, Absol in competitive, I think, sits around the C tier. I don't think this Pokemon offers too much. Like, yes, it has the early snowball, but the risk versus reward just leaves this a little lackluster to me. Although in solo queue, I think it could be a B or maybe an A. What do you think of that one, Crashy?
Yeah, I think B tier. I think the thing about
Yeah.
Absol is that while it can lane, it's not the best laner, and while
Mm-hmm.
it can jungle, it's not the best jungler. It
Yeah.
does have really good carry potential, and in solo queue, you can actually take that momentum and really carry a game. But it still does taper off a bit toward the end, no matter how you look at it. And
Yeah.
and you do have to team fight with this character every now and then. So competitively, I definitely understand. And solo queue wise, it's not in the worst position in the world. It definitely used to be worse. But I think I'm kind of in line with what you're thinking.
Cool, cool. All right, so next we got Blastoise. I think Blastoise competitively sits in the B tier. I think because of its level 5 power spike, it's too hard to pull this off in the tri lane, but you can run this in the solo lane. There are just obviously some better options. The Unite's obviously really strong. Blastoise is a great Pokemon. You can't really go wrong with it, but there are better choices. In solo queue, though, Blastoise to me, I think is one of the better tanks. So I'd put it in the B tier as well, but in a better B tier. What do you think of that, Crashy?
Yeah, I think sitting high B tier definitely makes a lot of sense to me. Competitively, we've seen Blastoise used when there's bans, and I think that is like where Blastoise could eventually kind of like
Mm,
really shine. But in solo queue, you're two top, two bottom, like
yeah,
wherever you are, it doesn't really matter. You're carrying this character into like the mid and late game for the Unite move, and that Unite move can actually kind of shine in
yeah.
solo queue. So yeah, I agree. It's definitely a little bit more viable, but it's like high B
Yeah,
tier.
like if I had a B plus,
Maybe,
I'd probably
yeah,
put it there. You know what I mean? I think
exactly
that's where
right.
it
Yeah,
sits. Yeah, yeah. All
yeah, I
right,
agree.
Blissy. Ah, competitively, I honestly think Blissey is very middling. I think it's because you can't really run Blissey in the tri lane without losing too much pressure to a certain other support Pokemon. But you can do some cool 2-1-2 stuff with it, so it can work. So I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's going to be a go-to pick by any means. I think Blissey in solo queue, which where were we thinking, Crashy? Are we thinking?
I mean, the thing is like the Pokemon's good, but you can't carry games, and I don't know how much you're weighting that, but like you
Yeah,
can't
quite a
really
bit.
carry
Yeah.
games. And at the end of the day, you could just always pick Autogus in solo queue, and we both know that, right? So it's I think like wherever you want to put it is probably where
Yeah.
I'm going to be comfortable with it
Yeah,
too,
I
because it
think
just can't get a lot done
I
in
think
solo
you're around the
queue.
C tier, right? Because if your team is good, you enhance that. But is that something you really want to rely on in solo queue? I'm not too sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not too sure. Charizard, how this one has just every patch Charizard is like this. It's been all over the place, but right now I think in competitive Charizard is a solid A tier pick. The Unite is so impactful, and Charizard's not useless without the Unite anymore just because of the ability to use Flamethrower and Fire Blast while moving. It really helps you kite, it really helps you chase down an enemy, and I think it's a force to be reckoned with right now, and I'm happy to see love for Charizard. In solo queue, I kind of want to say it's in the same spot. What do you think, Crashy?
Yeah, I agree. I was wondering this. I was kind of curious if you were going to throw it like S tier or something. In
Mm,
solo queue, Charizard will decimate games if you can at least stay even or get ahead. But if
hmm
you fall behind, it's actually pretty hard to do a
Yeah.
ton with Charizard. But that said, like it is definitely one of the better junglers in the game right now. It's up there. It can hard carry a game. Like I said, if you get ahead, if you get the first Dreadnought, man, that you can really
Oh,
use that experience to go
Charizard with
crazy with
Leash
it.
is so scary, man. So scary. Cremerhant. I, I'm trying to think ahead, but like I don't think it's as good as Absol competitive either. I think it's actually just not a good Pokemon. I think Cremerhant just needs some love. I think if you're listening to me, please treat Cremerhant how you do Lucario. Like give Cremerhant a bit of that love and just because
Oh no, we're gonna nerf
oh no,
it.
because Cremerhant right now, I think it's look when its cooldowns are up, it's pretty impactful, right? The surf catches are really good, but it doesn't do that often enough to warrant it. It's too diveable. It's not safe enough, and the ult, you kind of just press it and then die. I just don't think it has any impact, and I guess in solo queue I'd put it in the same place. I don't know what your thoughts are on this one, Crash.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe make an argument that it's a little better in solo queue because there's less coordination to dive it,
Mm.
or maybe it's a little better in solo queue because you could make like air/dive builds work. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, the reality is that like if the weakest thing about a Pokemon is its Unite move, and like it kind of is on Cram, it's just a bad recipe, right, for a
Yeah.
Pokemon. I think that it's really needing some TLC, whether it's like more uptime on its abilities or faster charge rate on the ult or a buffed ult, whatever it needs. Cram is not the best. It's not entirely useless, but if you really are going into ranked or you're going into just playing the game in general, Cram's not the best pick.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. A Pokemon that has risen from the top to the top. I think Cinderace right now is an S tier Pokemon. I think the ability to hyper carry with this Pokemon is insane in competitive. If you farm and you position well around your team, you will 1v9 on this Pokemon. If you get, we saw that in the Team Shiny tournament. We saw that when a Cinderace really got ahead, it just put on so much pressure and it was hard to deal with. It has good secure, has good DPS. It's just a force. And I solo queue, I kind of think because you don't get peel, maybe A tier. I don't know what your take is on that one, Crashy.
I think depending on just how you want to throw it, like A or S, I get it for solo queue, because it is still a carry that you have to play and be really efficient on. But man, when you're ahead, you can just blow things up and pop off. I think that it's
I think I might
from
move it
like a
up.
literal
I think I might
standpoint,
move it
I'm
up.
fine with that because from a
Yeah.
literal standpoint, I think it's probably just the best jungler in the game right now. And then there are other junglers that get really, really close, but a really fed and farmed up Cinderace coming out of jungle is terrifying. Like
Yeah.
you like you said, you have great secure, great chase potential with Blaze Kick changes. This Pokemon will probably always dance between like high tier or like S tier.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Crustle, not much to say. It did one thing and then they nerfed the one thing. So I don't think Crustle. Look, it has a place on score comps, but even then, there are better options. I just don't think Crustle does too much. I'm actually kind of oblivious to the way this is in solo queue right now, Crashy. So if you want to take this one,
I would probably put it in B tier. I think that like I said, it's the coordination of people not really knowing. I mean, it's either B or C, like low B, high C, wherever you want to put it. Probably high C actually.
yeah,
And the reason why is because like you can go crazy and score on it, but like at some point you're gonna try to need to fight, or you may have to, and there's really just not a ton that you can do there.
yeah.
At the end of the day, like we said, it's always just a better option is out there for you, right?
Yeah, it kind of got power crept and then nerfed, and it's a bit interesting why they did that. Um, this thing, this thing that they seem to think is fine, Autogus. I feel in competitive, if you're not picking this Pokemon, you're kind of throwing. I think Autogus is literally the support. It pressures you with damage in the tri lane. It gives your team movement speed. It lowers accuracy blocking basic attacks. It has a massive ult that knocks people back in and heals people. It has AoE shields. Like, I just don't know what's not to love about this Pokemon. And I honestly think that even in solo queue, it's an A tier. I don't know what you think of this Pokemon, Crash.
Yeah, so again, I've been kind of going back and forth between the should we structure solo queue tier list for character strength or carry potential, and I kind of have to do a little bit of both. But yeah, the character's good. The fact that you can still do range damage, you throw a muscle band on Eldegoss, and you're still valuable to the team.
Yeah.
When you're in Unite move, like you're not taking damage, so you're valuable to the team because you're less damage on the field. Like then you heal them, then you shield them, you speed them. Like the character does literally everything.
This Pokemon
and it
needs
so
a
well.
nerf. This Pokemon needs a nerf. I don't.
I mean, they nerfed Leaf Tornado damage, which was like it was a great start. Yeah,
great start. Yeah, they just need to hit everything else. Garchomp. I think in competitive, Garchomp's actually risen from the slums of the rest of them to the A tier. I think Garchomp is a really good top laner. It's a decent jungler. I think that the changes, while they seem small, are really, really big. The slow on the dragon combo, it being more consistent, the defense on the ground combo, like this Pokemon has just become a lot stronger. I think if you're someone like Potato Uwu, it's up here, right? Like if you have that skill level on this Pokemon, but I think for the average Garchomp player, it sits around here. I do though think in solo queue it's a bit middling, but I might be wrong there, Crasher. What's your take on Garchomp in solo queue?
I think I would probably put it same like A tier next to
Yeah,
Charizard. Like you can, it's the same thing. If you get ahead, you get to that point where like you're just like full dragon comboing into teams, and
yeah.
like with the slightest follow up, like you're gonna at least take down one or two of them solo if you can get ramped up. I think that like even in like slow smoke meta, like you're still able to just like get into a fight, and if you have a Unite move, you just pop the Unite move, and it
Yeah.
feels like it can do a lot. The thing is like, and the same thing goes with Charizard. You don't have secure, so you're really just trying to be
Mm.
strong and win
It's
fights.
really hard to secure with that Unite, even though it hits so hard. It's the timing is
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
rough. Yeah. Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I think, yeah, the ability to group and the group enemies and just do the damage, it is pretty strong. Here's a Pokemon that I don't, I know there's potential here. I just don't know if the meta allows it. I've seen some people do some great things, and I think I'd put Gardevoir, to me, in the B tier in competitive. I think you can jungle this Pokemon and do things. I don't think you'd lane it. I think it gets bullied and lane too hard. I think it can definitely jungle. It can definitely have high impact, and the Unite is insane. The future sight resets are insane. The stunning is insane. The Pokemon's got a ridiculous kit. It's one of those ones where I think it's hard to buff it without making it broken. But I definitely think this Pokemon's really solid. I have not played Gardevoir in solo queue the entire season, Krashy. So if you have a take on this,
I feel like it's like really high B or low A, and the thing is like the character's strong,
mm,
but you're still diveable, and the
yep,
game is very divey. Charizard can still like hard chase after you. Garchomp
mm-hmm,
can like hard chase after you, and at the same time, you have to compare the fact that you are. It's not just how strong the character is, but what are you giving up by taking it? And so
yeah,
you're jungling Gardevoir, like you are giving up some of these other picks. So I think it's very, very high B. It's very strong. It has a great Unite move. It got some stealth buffs that they didn't have
yep,
in the notes, and it's a really solid pick. But I don't think it's the best pick.
yeah. I can definitely agree with that. Oh, I don't know how, but in my eyes, they made this Pokemon worse. I don't know how they did it. I think Gengar is the worst Pokemon in the game currently, and if you're playing competitive, I don't think there's a reason to ever pick Gengar unless because you want to, and then you're kind of crippling your team. That they reworked it now so you're even less efficient at first Bs unless you go Hex, which is too punishable later, and it just doesn't seem like it's very good to me. And I honestly think the same for solo queue. Did you agree with this one?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as Gardevoir, but way worse, right? Like
Mm,
you have to compare this to other junglers. It's a very competitive role to fill, and you're coming out of the jungle with, an ability that's not one of the two abilities that's not really going to help you secure those bees. So then
yeah.
you're relying on your laners, and the laners are supposed to be relying on you. So you're
Hmm.
coming out, and does this character have potential? Absolutely. It starts to ramp up toward the mid game, absolutely, but anything Gengar can do as a speedster, as a jungler, someone else will do much, much better.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree on that. Oh, Greedent. I actually think this is an A tier in competitive. I think Greedent has so much potential. I've played it myself, and I've seen a lot of Greedents do some interesting things. Where this Pokemon, it's almost like it doesn't synergize with the team, but it doesn't need to because it kind of runs around the map. It pressures scoring. It does whatever it wants. It doesn't die in lane, right? You can't really kill a Greedent if it's playing well. And then in the late game team fights, it seems like it's not there, and when you feel like you're winning the fight, it just unites in and just starts wiping everybody. This Pokemon to me is incredibly strong. Crashy, I know you are a big Greedent fan in the solo queue with the invade strategy. Where does that sit?
I think it's an A tier. I
Yeah.
think the thing about Greedent is, like you said, it is very self sufficient. And whether or
Mm-hmm.
not you're just standard laning it, like you don't have to invade it, or whether or not you're doing invade strat, there's so much potential for this Pokemon to just be a problem, right? Like
Mm.
when Greedent's on the field, it's like if you're a good Greedent, the other team has to deal with you. They have to find an answer for you, and sometimes that answer is by ignoring you and finding opportunities like
Yeah.
against your other teammates. But Greedent it really is a force to be reckoned with. It's got a solid ult. It's a really strong
Yeah,
Pokemon. Yeah.
yeah, it's a very solid. Greninja. I think in competitive, Greninja sits in the A tier. I don't think it's quite Cinderace because Cinderace, the attack range for one, right? It just doesn't have the same tools. But the ability to secure, the ability to snowball in a fight, I think Greninja has one of the scariest level 7 ganks of all time. It is very pressuring. If everyone is low, that's a pentakill for Greninja. It's hard to deal with in a zap fight. It's hard countered by Charizard. although Cinderace is, but it can outplay it a little better. So I think Greninja sits just under Cinderace for me, and it's in the A tier. Though I personally believe that it might be better than Cinderace in solo queue. That's my take on it. I think Greninja is one of the better solo queue takes. What's your take on that?
I agree. I don't think that I threw it in S tier, but
Mm.
on my list. But I think the reason why it's so good in solo queue, if we're gonna expand on that point, is like it just has so much ability to get things done itself, and
Yeah.
that in solo queue, I mean that's the whole point, right? Like
Hmm.
you're playing by yourself, you have so much residency to just take control, secure, force objectives. Like it can do a lot. It does a good amount of damage. It's got great mobility. Like Greninja is just a very, very like really strong solo
Yeah,
queue pick.
it's
That
so
said, for the
strong.
sake of saying, I'm not a huge fan of lane Greninjas, you guys out there.
There's so many.
Like
I,
you're definitely like it's a little rough, but
I,
jungle wise,
I
yeah,
think I
it's
lane with the
amazing.
Froakie like 80% of games. I
Oh
think
yeah.
like 80% of my games. Next up, we have why? When a Pokemon's been S tier since it came out, and it's been one of the most oppressive things in the entire game, and you buff it, I I'm baffled. I'm honestly baffled, and I think Lucario right now is stronger than it's been, and it scares me. It scares me. Lucario now is it is undisputably the best top laner in the game. There is no argument anymore. Lucario is the best top laner in the game in competitive, and it's just close combat. I know they hotfixed it, but it's still buffed, and it's too oppressive. And I look forward to the day that Lucario is not the greatest Pokemon in the game. And I honestly think that transfers into solo queue. What's Lucario like in solo queue, Crash?
Yeah, I think like you're not getting as fed as fast, and you're not getting as the turn-ins as easily, but it doesn't really matter because you carry the strength of the character's kit
Hmm.
like pretty much all the time. So as long as you're not like falling behind or playing poorly, like you're gonna have perfect effectiveness in this character. Like you steal farm from people, you can still dunk in their face and
Hmm.
in duo lane. Like it still happens all the time. You can just be super annoying. It's just a little bit lessened than it would be in a 5 stack or like a team
Yeah.
setting. But yeah, Lucario's crazy. The character's just crazy.
The
There's
kit's
really
nuts,
not
right?
and
Like you're either dashing everywhere and they can't lock you down, or you're unstoppable all the time and they can't lock you down. The character is
blowing
just
things up in like 2 hits.
it's
Yeah,
so insane.
that's the thing about it. Like you can play whatever build too. Like
Hmm.
it's just so strong.
I
The
honestly think you
the
can mix and
held
match
item
any
viability.
abilities. Yeah.
Exactly. You can mix match the held item viabilities through the roof. Like there's like 5 or 6 different items you can actually run on this character. Like there's so much playstyle variance
Even the battle
and
items. There's
yeah.
like 3 battle items you can run on this character.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Lucario is nuts. Next up, we have Machamp, and if you are a regular on the channel, you are aware that Machamp is my favorite Pokemon of all time, and I will hype this up whenever I get the chance. And I think Machamp is actually finally a solid Pokemon in competitive. I think it's an A tier. I think it is one of the better top laners. I think that Karate Chop's buff was great. I think you can get away with a lot, and you can really get that solo farm that can push you to that Unite, and you can really impact the game. I think you have to, it's very skill dependent. I think you have to be good at Machamp to make it work, but I definitely think it sits there. I do think it's a little lower in solo queue. What's your take on that, Crashy?
Yeah, I think it's pretty like high B tier. And the main thing is like you said, like you're not getting that full lane's worth of farm. So it slows down Machamp a little bit.
Mm,
As far as being a jungler, like it's a pretty good jungler, but same thing, right? Like there's always a better jungler. You can just look up the tier list at A and S tier and just like see all the jungle potential that's ahead of it. But
yeah.
Machamp feels really solid, right? Like and obviously the other thing about it too is like the buffs to Karate Chop were obvious like lane buffs, right? Like you don't really need that buff in jungle.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that it's gone up in viability, but not the best in solo queue.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Swine, Mamoof. I think Mamoof is actually a very high BT right now. I think especially in the slow smoke meta, this Pokemon in the tri lane at the bottom, once you get to that first Ordino, if you pop slow smoke, you're not escaping Swine. It is going to lock you down. It is going to stun you over and over again, and you are just going to be in a very, very bad spot. I think the Unite's a little underwhelming, but it definitely has some potential, and I think Mamoof's in a pretty good spot. I do think it's better in solo queue, Crashy. Maybe a tier up.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's like slightly better in solo queue, right? Because
Hmm.
like you're able to kind of control the lane and really bully because you're a freeze tank
Yeah.
in like a 2-2 lane probably. So you're able to really get a lot done, but it does taper off, and just the general sentiment of like playing tanks in solo queue is a little bit harder. But I think that it is slightly better in solo queue, not a ton better, but yeah, a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, next up we have Mr. Mime. I think Mr. Mime's dropped in the current meta. I think in the slow smoke meta, Mr. Mime finds it a little harder to do what it wants to do. It's still a lane bully, it still gets the farm, but I just don't think it's what it was. Though in solo queue, I think Mr. Mime is one of the better support picks. What's your take on Mr. Mime in solo queue?
Yeah, I think throwing it in the A tier is like it's perfectly fine. Like in solo queue, you're not gonna have people that are like tri-lane farm bullying, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? They just don't. It's a lot more neutral, it's a lot more chill. And Mr. Mime at the end of the day brings a great kit to the team. And so you don't have to worry about that laning phase like you do in competitive right now,
Hmm.
where like the slow smoke meta is really slowing down Mime. But in solo queue, I don't think it's like really hurt him that much almost at all. So yeah, playing Mime, like being
Yeah.
strong, bringing the the big burst and the unite move, it's really solid.
Yeah, for sure. Ninetales. For me, Ninetales kind of sits where Absol sits. It's kind of the same thing to me in competitive. Ninetales in the early game is quite a bully in lane. It's CCing you, its Q is decent, it's gonna make your life kind of hell. But in the late game, it just kind of dies to junglers over and over and over again and doesn't really do too much. I'm I don't think I've played Ninetales in solo queue since season 1, Crashy. Do you know where this would sit?
I mean, if you wanted to keep it kind of in that same position with Absol, like I think B or C
Mm,
tier is like the only way we could do it.
yeah,
Um, I do think that it's like a much more like lower tier character. But you're right. Like in lane, like you're gonna get ahead and you're gonna do great things, and you can definitely pop off. And the character's not like useless. It
mm,
just you scale into late game and you don't have mobility.
yeah.
Your burst isn't super high. Your ult isn't super strong,
If
and you're just
Blizzard
kind
went
of
through walls,
there.
right? If Blizzard went through walls.
That would at least be a help, right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
at least would be nice. But yeah, Ninetales is just like it's okay. Yeah, it's
Mm.
okay.
Pikachu. It's hard for me to say. To be honest, I think this is a A minus, I guess. I think Pikachu is still really, really strong. It is way better Ninetales, right? It's the early game bully of the trio lane. It essentially almost guarantees you bottom lane pressure for Dreadnought if you're running this Pokemon. It allows you to do so much. Late game, it doesn't really fall off damage or CC wise. It does start to get dove, but if your team is peeling for it, it's really, really solid. I think Pikachu's Unite cooldown is insane. It allows you to just live in situations where you wouldn't. In solo queue, I I'm a big fan of Pikachu. I would also put it in the A tier. I know you probably don't
I
agree with
think
that one,
no,
Crashy.
I do. It's just you don't have the self-sufficiency to like like be mobile, but this character actually does like that SP attacker role of blowing things up.
Mm,
And that's what I think a lot of the other SP attackers are missing. Like they don't have their unite moves up enough, they don't have their kits up enough or do enough damage to feel like they're actually doing big impact. But
mm-hmm.
like if you catch someone in like the late game with like a Pikachu ult, like you're gonna just basically one shot
Yeah.
them, and that's huge, right? That's huge value. So yeah, I definitely think Pikachu is like A tier. I think that it's basically filling the same spot like in competitive that it is in solo queue.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Slowbro. Slowbro has risen so far for me. I think in competitive, Slowbro is an A tier pick. I think it is one of the better tanks in the game. Those small changes, this Pokemon's unkillable almost. And the Unite is honestly incredible, especially with the meta rising up. If you Slowbro Unite a Cinderace, it's gone. If you Slowbro Unite a Charizard, it's not getting its Unite off. And even a Lucario. I just think this Pokemon has so much value. Its laning isn't terrible. Water Gun's pretty decent secure. And a level 4 power spike is something you can really, really work with in the bottom lane. I also think Slowbro's good in solo queue, but I don't know what your take on that would be.
Yeah, again, I think this is kind of that argument of like, can you carry versus can you bring value with the character?
Mm,
And like Swine and Slowbro being an A tier, I agree. I think that you're
mm,
bringing a ton of value to the team, and you're gonna do a lot and be strong. And
mm-hmm.
then you kind of just have to hope that like your teammates can follow up on that. But I don't want to
Yeah.
take away from the character because of the nature of solo queue. But yeah, the character's strong in solo queue. You can throw a muscle band on it. I don't know if that's what most teams are running, but yeah, you definitely can throw a muscle band on it just to bully the lane and
Mm-hmm.
bring more damage for yourself. you have crazy CC, crazy ability to stay alive. Like this character is very strong with the buffs.
It's good to see it rise up from where it was. It got a lot of hate early on, and it's really good to see this. And in solo queue, I guess, like at worst, you can at least eliminate their carry, you know, and maybe your team can do something out of that.
At worst, you're locking someone down and hoping that your teammates win the fight around you. So yeah,
Snorlax.
That's solid.
I think this is also an A tier tank. I think Snorlax. This order. Let's not pay attention to the order anymore. I think Snorlax is an A tier tank. I think the changes to block were crazy. I'm sure you've seen. You can't even Talonflame fly over block anymore. It blocks
I've heard,
everything, and it pushes crams when they're uniting. It pushes people off goals. It's become really strong. It's still banned from some tournaments because people are still trying to figure out if it's a bug or not, even though we have gotten word that it isn't. And I just think that Snorlax is incredibly strong in a competitive environment. It isn't some of the other picks, but it's a very, very good pick, and you can't really go wrong with it. I don't think I would play Snorlax in solo queue. I think it would sit in the middle. Do you have a take on this?
It's crazy because solo queue, it's the same thing, right? Like this is more of a tank than any other tank, right? And then that exacerbates the need for teammates. And so like, yeah, it's weird to put Snorlax B tier because the character's not really B tier, but you're not doing anything by yourself.
You're so
So again, that whole argument of carry versus strong, this one is the one where it stands out, right? Like you're not doing anything. You're just slamming and holding people against walls, but like they're just gonna kill you when you're done if you have no one around. And so
very true.
Yeah, the character's strong, but you know, I don't know. Solo queue wise.
Yeah, definitely. Sylveon. I think this sits up here in the A tier. I'm not sure if I think it's better than Pikachu. I think Pikachu's early game is a lot stronger. I think Sylveon's first bees is insane. The first bees is insane on this Pokemon if you get 4, which you should. Otherwise, please don't play it. So I think Sylveon's really strong. And in the later game, it's just a lot safer. It's a lot harder to dive a Sylveon with Calm Mind. And if they unites up and they're kiting you with Hyper Voice, the Pokemon is just aggravating, to say the least. It's a very good pick. I think I would put it in the same place in solo queue, though in solo queue you can even lean into Mystical Fire a little. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the secure potential of Hyper Voice is really strong, but you kind of nailed it when you said that it's just a safe Pokemon. Like Calm Mind Plus, giving you the ability to kind of like, you know, like dodge an ability or, you know, cancel out an ability. And then the Unite moves, like if someone's really after you, at minimum, you're buying time, right? Yeah. You're buying time to reposition and the ability to like get some help. And yeah, Sylveon does good damage. Like that's the other thing too. Is like the character does actual damage. So, you know, whereas, you know, you can compare Sylveon to say like a Cram or a Ninetales, like it's way more valuable.
Yeah, it's easy to forget sometimes too that has a level 8 Unite. That can sneak up on you. That can really sneak up on you in the early game. Talonflame. Oh man, this Pokemon has been touched in every single patch, I think, right? From like the beginning of the game almost. It started off in a really bad spot. I think Talonflame sits in an A tier for a jungler to me. I think Aerial Ace is sleeper broken right now. It just one-shots you. And it's crazy strong, so Brave Bird build has potential. I think the Fly build, if you use it to fight, has gotten even stronger. But though those Talonflames that were just running around scoring, flying away, running, they're a little bit weaker right now. But I still think Talonflame's a very, very strong pick. And I think I'd put it in the same place in solo queue.
Yeah, I agree. For solo queue, I've been playing Brave Bird Aerial Ace, and you're right. Like you literally pick someone, you just one-shot them and blow them up. And you still kind of bring like your buddy barrier, so you can just like, if you get in the fight and it does look bad, you just ult yourself out or reposition the whole team. Like the character in solo queue as a jungle option is for solo queue, I think it's rivaling like Charizard's potential in a different way, right? You know what I mean? And it's very, very strong solo queue wise. Yeah, Talonflame is just one of those kind of big carries.
Yeah, I think the only thing that stops it from being S tier is the fact that it can't solo objectives. Yeah, I think to me that's like the only thing. It's so strong otherwise.
A little slow on the objectives.
Venusaur. This Pokemon every day to me goes from here to here to here to here to here. I actually think I'm gonna put it up here. I think Venusaur right now, in the slow smoke meta, is the least punishable attacker in the entire game. And if a Venusaur runs into a team, and that team has been slow smoked, Venusaur is wiping that team. It is so incredibly strong. It has full heal to slow smoke for itself. It's going to just steamroll through. And if your Venusaur is level 13 in the end game fight at Zapdos, the other team has to just be very, very aware of that. And I think because it changes how you have to play, it justifies it being an S tier for me. I think it's more of an A tier in solo queue. Would I be right
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I think it's like the highest of A tier, right?
Yeah.
And it's really just, I don't know, it's just strong, man. Like it can
Hmm.
lane. I jungle this Pokemon sometimes in solo queue just because you can get really ahead with
Yeah,
it.
you'll get that
The
13 for
Unite move
sure.
is the Unite move is great. You basically can't miss the Unite move. Like it's almost
So big
impossible
now.
to miss.
So
Like
big now.
it's so massive, and you just throw it in the fight. Like you're bringing the
Hmm.
buddy barrier, very self sufficient. I think this Pokemon for me is just like in a sense for solo queue better than Sylveon, better than Pikachu, just because of that self sufficiency, and it just does so much. It's really really awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even want to talk about this next Pokemon. Can we just put it here and move on? Wigglytuff.
Yeah, we could literally just like skip this segment
Yeah,
and just
like
recap.
I think
Like,
we just know. I think we just know. Yeah. Do we put it here as well? Do we just know? Or
yeah,
we just
and
yeah.
for the sake of saying, if
Yeah.
anybody is watching this for the first time, this character is probably the most broken character in the game. Like, it's not broken Lucario wise because it's doing crazy damage. It just has like ridiculous
You just
passive,
can't play.
ridiculous ultimate. It's
You just can't
just
play.
yeah.
It
This character
either
just
yeah.
doesn't
It
anti fun.
its passive says you can't play. Its basic attack says you can't play. Sting says you can't play. Rollet says you can't play. And its Unite move says you can play, but you're not going to do any damage. It just you can't play. You can't play with
Yeah.
Wigglytuff in the game. So let's just move past Wigglytuff. Zero Aura competitively. Oh, this one's hard because the Wild Charge build, like I don't even. Is this Pokemon still bugged? I don't even know. I can't
I
tell.
don't even know. Probably not. Maybe it's like a Snorlax situation. Like we don't
Yeah,
know. I
I
guess
think
I don't know.
it sits here because of level 10 ult. I think if
Yeah.
Zero Aura had level 9 ult, it would be an A tier, but I think it sits like lowish B tier for that reason. Though in solo queue, I personally actually feel like you can do some crazy things with this Pokemon in solo queue with the Wild Charge build. You can just wipe teams. I don't know
Yeah.
if you agree with that. Would you sit it up here?
I put it like B tier equivalent on my tier list, but I actually agree. I think that in solo queue, again, if this character's bugged, if it's not bugged, we don't know. We don't know what
Mm,
to go off of. But the fact that you can literally just like almost one shot people, and yeah, you're getting your Unite move later, but in solo queue, everything is a little less efficiently cut down, right? Like
yeah.
it doesn't cut down to that like perfect nine, to the perfect team fights. All of that kind of slightly fades away. And so yeah, I think that this character is an animal when it comes to
Yeah.
solo queue.
Yeah, it can definitely do some crazy things. Decidueye. I've got to put it down here with the rest of these guys for competitive. I don't think the damage warrants how easy it is to kill for me. I just think that if you're running the snipe build, it's a bit of a gimmick. If you're running the other build, it's a lot of DPS, but you just have to get too close and you're gonna get shredded. I just don't think it has what it takes. I think maybe in solo queue you could put it a tier up. I'm not too sure what you think of that.
Maybe. I mean, in solo queue, I think it's like one of the worst picks you could pick.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
I
think I
mean,
might actually
you
move
could
it down
maybe.
here.
It's weird because like maybe if you get lucky and they're just not diving you, I
Mm,
guess like it does damage, but damage is not the game, right? Like
mm-hmm.
it just doesn't do enough. And like you're gonna take a jungle pick away for this
Yeah.
character. Like you're gonna lane it. Like no matter
Oh,
what you're thinking about doing, this character is just awful. Like it's
yeah, honestly. Serena. How the mighty have fallen. I think
yeah
Serena sits in like the middling of the B tier now in competitive. I think you can still pick it and you can still play it, but you're not gonna do what you did before. There's just no way.
yeah
It doesn't sustain enough. Its cooldown hit matters. The damage matters. I just think Serena is still a good pick, but with the early game it has, I can't warrant picking it just for like that high end mid game anymore. You play a lot of Serena, right? In solo queue, Crashy. Do you have a take on this?
Yeah, I feel like she feels okay. Like I would probably put her at the peak of B tier.
Mm,
Um, it's weird. Like she's just much worse than what she used to be.
yeah,
And you could. The crazy thing is like you can still get ahead and pop off with her, but that could be done with anybody. You know, like that
yeah.
really can be done by anybody. And she's not useless. She's not the worst pick in the game. I think she's very similar to what I would like if I'm looking at jungle picks. I would very similarly like liken it to like Absol. Like there's some
Mm,
potential there. Not in the same way that it's like early game versus late game, but
yeah.
there's potential on the character. But there's just better picks.
I can see that. The Pokemon have disappeared off my screen, so I'm gonna have to do this. Okay, so Dragonite next. Dragonite for me, I think has fallen from the S tier, but not too far. I think in competitive it still sits in the A tier because it still has that crazy objective pressure. Dragonite still offers the fact that if it's there, you have to fight. You can't flip against a Dragonite, it will get the objective. And even Outrage has a little potential right now. So for me, it's fallen, but not too far. What's your take on Dragonite in solo queue, Krashy? Because I know you've been playing Outrage lately.
Yeah, I've been playing Outrage lately, and I actually think that Outrage is better than Hyper Beam right now.
Okay.
It's weird. I put it
I've heard that take.
low,
I've heard
but
that take.
I'm thinking like low A tier, like, and that's Outrage or Hyper Beam if I'm kind of clumping it, because like you're right,
Yeah.
you do have to kind of deal with the Pokemon, and if you're playing Outrage build, then you have to fight against it, and honestly.
Yeah.
Outrage, like with E-Speed or Dragon Dance, like it's a pretty good backline diver. Like it gets in there. The change to the Unite move makes me feel like I can use the Unite move for diving a little bit more. So yeah, there's some pressure there. I think it's pretty decent right now. It's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And now we have Trevenant. I think in competitive, Trevenant, it's either like a B- or a C+, because it's decent. Oh, whoops. It's decent, but there is just no reason to play Trevenant. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of Trevenant fans. I even love it. I think it's so much fun. I think this Pokemon is actually a lot of fun to play, but there's nothing it does that others don't do better. The Unite has some cool synergies where you could make some strategies work, but it just doesn't seem worth it. And I honestly think in solo queue, screen is getting really scuffed right now, but we'll work with it.
Yeah.
I think in solo queue, like, there's like no reason to play it. I don't know if you agree with that take.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's just really no reason to play it. It's fun.
It is fun.
That's about all I have to say. Like, it's fun.
It is a lot of fun. All right. Oh, now we speculate Aegislash. So you've added this here. I honestly think, like, so from my mind, the way it works, and looking at Aegislash's kit, I think if you are a very high-end player with a lot of skill, this Pokemon has the potential to actually break the game. I think it just seems insane in teams. It's going to require so much to deal with, and would you say the same for solo queue, Krashy?
I would probably give it like a high A tier, because I think like the nuance of counterplay in solo queue isn't nearly as strong as just being strong sometimes. So I think that, like, if we're speculating, I expect it to be very good. But in competitive, I kind of expect it to maybe be meta changing.
Yeah,
and that's just based on the kit description. We don't know scaling
we don't
or anything
know.
really, but I've read the kit, man. I understand how it works, and
it's scary.
Looks really good.
It's scary. Really good. It's so scary. Next we have Krashy. Last but not least, we have Krashy.
Competitive. He's bad, man. It's not very good.
Krashy in competitive. I'm putting him in the mid here because he's rebuilding his team right now. Krashy's rebuilding his team, and I think that in time they will start to rise up. But right now they're in that team building stage. So let's not sleep on the Bandicoots, but I think they're definitely around there. Where would you put Krashy in solo queue? Because I think we're putting him up here. I think one of the best, right?
One of the best to ever do it. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, there's just like not much else to say. I think Krashy's cracked. I think he's cracked. And so that is it's actually interesting how not like these aren't that different. These are not that different. Like that, everything's like a tier up or down, except for Krashy. He's shut up in solo queue. But yeah, I think it's cool to see the game in these two different eyes, right? Where like you're a solo queue player or a competitive player.
Frank is saying, I think that the game's actually decently balanced right now. Like there will never be a full stacked A tier, S tier list, right? You know what I mean? There's always going to be something that's slightly outshined. So when you look at how top end heavy these lists are, I'd say we should be pretty decently pleased with the state of balance. And maybe not the state of each individual character, but the state of balance as a whole. It's actually pretty good.
The only thing that would make me happy about this is if Lucario and Wiggly were in D tier. And if we could make that happen, then I would be ecstatic at the balance in this game. Because let them fall. Let them fall a little. But thanks so much for joining me here, Krashy. I had a blast with you. Appreciate this. Before I go, a quick shout out to the members. You guys are the most amazing human beings on the planet, except for Krashy, obviously. I'm so thankful for you guys. I really appreciate you. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.